Hello, my name is Hoppkins. I am the current main director of the Tropic Crisis Project and the creator of Embargo.
This update has been full of maps that I believe were taken straight from the Tropic Crisis update, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, three of them actually. We were very lucky enough to Valve to consider like at least part of the Tropic Crisis Project. Like we weren't expecting that at all.
Well, it must have been a really pleasant surprise when you got that email from Eric Smith.
Yeah, we got I think two emails at first. One related to maps and one related to a certain cosmetic. So it was very it was very surprising. Valve was actually very open into like looking into the stuff, all this like community project we did.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that everything went so smoothly. I've got a couple questions here that I'm sure people are dying to get answered, considering I came up with them myself. I'm gonna be asking you stuff all about the map and what it means to make maps for you. So, before we get started, I loved Embargo. It was easily not to put you on a pedestal or anything like that, but it was easily one of the most like ambitious, creative maps I've ever played. So, it being the standout amongst all the other maps is. I'd say it's well earned. It's really good. When did you first get involved with like making maps in general? I know you've made other maps before. You've made maps like El Salvador, Patagonia, Valor. You've even made a couple war paints, I believe, right?
Yeah, I started in my mapping career with Trade Plaza maps, mostly.
Wait, you made Trade Plaza?
No, I'm not the original creator of Trade Plaza, but I work in variants for Brazilian servers. So usually we
Oh.
would sustain ourselves with like making community maps like this. So like usually random game modes like WarioWare stuffs and these like mini games maps, I will start in my mapping career. I started taking very serious 2 years ago. And my first ever good lifting map that I consider a success in my workshop posting was Valor. Um, that map was like trying to introduce a new style of like Europe without actually like making something look very monotone or like trying to construct something more unique for the game. So always you're gonna see my maps like trying to do something like advancing towards like this new environmental work for TF2. So most of the things sometimes experimental or others like a very finalized project.
Variety is always good. You can only play in the same 5 or 10 maps every so often before you get sick of them. You want to change of scenery. And personally, I really liked the theming of these because when Jungle Inferno came out, I loved all those maps. It was great to see so much green compared to how we normally get like desert and industrial area and stuff like that. So getting those maps in Jungle Inferno was awesome. So pretty much getting Jungle Inferno 2 with all these updates, or with this summer update, it was amazing. I loved it. These maps all look great, and you and your guys, you did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it was amazing bringing the tropical idea into TF2. We saw other maps like Odyssey and Halo, also bringing like new aesthetics, but having the true Brazilian form into and Cuban form into TF2 was amazing to see coming by into fruition.
How was the process of coming up with the aesthetics and decorations of the map?
The aesthetics and the construction of the map is very complex when it comes to these type of like colonial buildings, what we call, because these buildings, if we see like Cuban buildings in real life, they're very complex in the detailing and in the color. They're very saturated. So if I kept the colors, for example, non-saturated, it wouldn't be recognizable as the Cuban location. And if I didn't add like probably a bit of ornaments on the buildings, it would still be very like bland to point it out. This is why like normal TF2 managed to catch, because the detailing usually is on the texture. The point about Cuban buildings, the detailing is more on the ornaments, and it's really hard to adapt these ornaments only on texture. So when we wanted to study how much we put on detail. So we made the calculations of like how we can put like a lot of details and at the same time not make very noisy for the game. It was very complex on the Cuban part. The casino one was mostly based around the other brutalism construction, like building the casino part was very like using reference to brutalist images, Galleria, for example, another map that I used a lot of reference from it, and kind of using the movie Casino. Um, the Casino, I think, is a movie from '65, if I'm not mistaken, as a reference, like on the office parts and around it. And the last point, I basically went full James Bond on the idea. So yeah, it was like James Bond and basically The Incredibles. What I was looking for reference to it. So it's like putting lava walls everywhere, laboratory hidden in the parts. On Red Spawn, you can see that giant room with triangles being used as the main shape. So it, every part of the map is like following a aesthetic like this.
I'm glad you mentioned the lava wall because I was actually about to bring that up. I loved the lava wall. It was a really nice touch, and it did make me think of The Incredibles. So I'd say you accomplished your goal.
Yeah, it was completely referenced. Yeah, it was my original. The lava wall is actually one of the hardest things to make for because if we use particles to make that wall, it would be like killing the game.
Oh yeah, I
Basically, the
bet.
game. Yeah, the game. The if you see Embargo is probably one of the biggest maps ever added to TF2. It's probably the biggest, like when it comes to file size. It was very impressive that Valve was also open about this.
The map in itself, Embargo, it tells a story through gameplay and also the custom announcers and stuff like that. But through gameplay itself, it tells the story of the heist and destroying his money and the counterfeit operation. How did you come up with the story for that map? And I believe the other maps focused in the Tropic Crisis update because it had that wonderful SFM movie made. Do all of those maps follow a specific narrative, or do they all tie together at all, or are they all more or less self-contained?
I would say two of them are more self-contained, but most of them are direct related to Tropic Crisis itself. Coming up with the story of Embargo was something uh, very unique because when I started building Embargo, it was even before Tropic Crisis. So Embargo was, I think, like almost 8 months of production, of planning. When I started building Embargo, I wanted the player to feel like they were in a James Bond action scene. So at the moment you're playing the map, it's like things are happening in the middle of the map. It's not only like, oh, I'm gonna fight the other team, and that's it. Like I'm gonna compete with the other team. I want the player to like, oh, I'm going to the roofs of the houses to fight the other player, and then it's gonna appear police cars on the way. It's gonna be a helicopter delivering the bomb. So the idea of constructing this was like from the blue team you're basically working for the CIA, and on the red team they got hired by this like grand supervillain. It was a lot of inspiration between like James Bond and Evil Genius around these two games. Most of the factor was like every single point of Embargo you kind of screwing with the operation. The first point you kind of like taking over a factory, so it's like you're taking out money sources from this dictator, like supervillain, and every time you get closer, you're basically screwing with his operation. So building up was basically using reference from action movies and James Bond itself, like Evil Genius too, like how the heroes try to invade your supervillain base in that game. Um, and about the maps relation, with Tropic Crisis, not only Embargo but like Salvador, for example, we have this rich man in Salvador that's like a TV host, and he basically like is doing a sneaky thing where he's telling everybody it's a TV show where these mercenaries are fighting, and basically you're just transporting Brazilian to a boat that's like
Oh,
delivering. Yeah, you're basically like delivering Brazilian in a very sneaky way.
so the
Um,
operation is disguised as a TV show.
Exactly. Every map at least tells a bit of story. Favela, you're basically like Brazilian has been dropped around the favelas. You're basically like trying to fight to take over the Brazilian and deliver. Cachoeira, it's basically munitions domination. Cachoeira is on the game, but if you see in the spawn where the submarine stays, you're gonna see a lot of crates of Brazilian inside there. And Overgrown was basically the first on the lore of Tropic Crisis, but it's not lore related to Crash itself, because Crash maps came way earlier than
Oh
Tropic
yeah, because
Crisis.
I
Yeah,
remember playtesting that map years ago.
yeah.
It
In
fits
the
well, I
story,
think. It fits good.
oh, if it like on the idea of Tropic Crisis was basically like, Overgrown was the first location to discover a Brazilian, but it wouldn't be fair to Crash like just to put Brazilian like right now, in the map.
Right.
So he deserves also the map very well in the game, even if like it's not directly related to Tropic Crisis, even if it was like the the main trailer um, for the action sequence that we did.
Yeah, with the giant green explosion destroying the
Yeah.
tower. My next question, Brazilium. How did you come up with that? How did you guys come up with Brazilium?
um,
And why is it
it was
green?
okay. First thing, it's because our flag is green. So,
Okay, yeah, duh.
so Brazil and uranium has a long history around like itself, the country itself. America was basically like illegal mining uranium in Brazil, in the history, where the Cold War happened. So we wanted to, instead of just bringing the missile crisis into the table, we wanted to give the spotlight to this kind of like illegal mining of America in South America. So basically, it's like we wanted to, instead of creating like uranium, it wouldn't be very public appealing. So we wanted to make like the uranium equivalent of the TF2 universe. Instead of being uranium, we would be like the Brazilium. That is, instead of being like Australium, where it's like profitable to your body and like mind, the Brazilian would be used as weapons. So without hurting the
Oh.
lore, yeah, instead of hurting the lore of TF2, where like, oh, now they're fighting for Brazilian, it's more valuable. It's not. So for the brothers, they're still like fighting over, the gravel wars. But the Brazilian is basically just additional, weaponry
It's
for
more to
that.
fight over.
Yeah, it's basically like if you go in Embargo and click on the red button in the spawn, you're gonna see what Brazilian does to your body. You
Oh
basically
yeah,
explode.
I love that Easter egg that had the laser that blows you up. That was really good.
That was amazing to make, man. We had to make, I think, 3 different models just to make that effect work.
Damn, that is commitment to the bit, my friend. I applaud you for
Oh
that.
yeah, we in Embargo we even hired the studio. Like
Really?
we placed the studio. Yeah, we made live music.
How did you go about getting like custom music and like custom voice lines and all this custom stuff that you guys made? Like, how did you put all that together for the presentation?
If we see like maps from Valve, like Hell Tower, they tell the story by using voice actors. So to adapt this into TF2 mapping, we don't really have like a implemented resource like Valve does in hard coding. So the music and the voice actors all had to be V-scripted. We used the Lizard of Oz, the creator from Saxon Hale, to basically like define the coding for us. And the music was basically like is a known studio for working with me on Valor on the previous maps. So we kind of contacted them and said like, yes, I want this kind of feeling of like James Bond movie style. Can you guys produce this kind of music? Then we basically, I think, hired like 2 trumpet and like 1 guy in the piano to basically like do this kind of like a live action recording with us. And we spent, I think, like 6 to 7 hours like trying to adapt what we want for Embargo. And for the voice actors, I wanted to get this kind of like belly bottom from the Minions vibe for the lady, where it would be like those like 70 spy agent movies, And for El Comandante, it was really hard to find someone to adapt. We wanted to get someone to get a very good accent of the Cuban accent, instead of just picking like a generic villain and putting like with a strong voice. So this is why some parts of El Comandante you're gonna see him trying speaking Spanish to get this feeling. He's like. I hope I respond the questions.
No. This is good. This is perfect. What are the names of the voice actors you have and the people who made the music?
So the people who made the music is this studio called Audionax. They are basically studio set in Brazil. They usually do for small indie games, so we didn't have a massive orchestra like Valve. The voice actor was Sarah Jane for a star for the lady, and Octoblitz for the El Comandante, and me for the robots.
Got it. Figured I'd get their names so that I can give them their credit on screen. Learning that was all V-scripted in was actually another question I was going to ask. How much of this map utilizes V-script, and would it just completely break and not work if V-script was not available?
For Incredible Deluxe, the payload system was not V-scripted, but the payload system actually was one of the hardest things to do, because we spent probably like hours and hours trying to adapt the thing. Like it's some kind of like rearranged a frontier working system. So if you see the logic later in research, you're gonna see how much we did just to make it work. Because even with VScript or not, the payload wouldn't work. So the VScript is the music manager, where you listen to the music. So in like if you disable the music in your game, it's also gonna disable in the map. This is something maps, when they put music, they are not able to. So we made the music manager for this. The voice line manager, of course, V-scripted. The music changing of the victory and the ending for this. The Gerardi explosion in the end, the ink explosion, when you get splat all around. And the robots models and voice lines were V-scripted. So, and one more, and the tanks. For Incredible Deluxe, the tanks are very basic, but they need to follow the curbs of the roads. And to make them follow without spending hours and hours implementing, we just place VScript on them. And they work perfectly fine with the current movement.
I'd say that was
the helicopter sound.
I'd say it was worth the effort. The helicopter too?
The helicopter sound. The helicopter itself follows the logic from Portal 2. So we implemented something from Portal 2 that is the like moving platforms. We implemented so the physics of the animation of the helicopter can still be done in TF2.
That's a creative workaround.
Oh, it was.
So on the topic of the map's theming, how did you come up with the idea for a casino heist? Was that always what it was going to be? That was your idea from day one, what you wanted to do?
Yes, from day one I want to have a casino in this map. And from day one, I can send you later pictures of the development part of the map. From day one, I wanted players to go in that chandelier that is on the casino. I wanted players to go on top of the chandelier and fight over there. So it was something, in my perspective, that I wanted the casino to be like part of the map, so recognizable when you think about casinos. Actually, I don't think nobody for TF2. I know Open Fortress they did, but for TF2, I think we are the first casino map ever added.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Was it always going to be? Oh, sorry.
No, please.
Was it always going to be a payload map? Was it ever going to be like King of the Hill or Attack Defense, anything like that, or was it always going to be payload?
Always going to be payload, but the truck system came later. The reason why I made the truck system, because usually city maps, they look very weird when you add the track in the middle of the city. It's so out of place. Like in a factory like TF2 has, it's okay to add the track, because they're kind of the mining, they blend with the art style. And on the Embargo, it's kind of weird you implement these tracks in the the city part. So I came up with the idea of okay, now it's gonna become Frontier style. And let me tell you something, making the layout was not easy.
Oh yeah, I bet.
adapting a a layout to normal payload in the middle of the process to a frontier style was probably one of the hardest things we ever faced around layout construction.
I think it's certainly paid off because when I played that for the first time and I got to the truck part, I was like, oh my god, it's turning into like it's like Frontier meets Snowplow, the end of the line map, and the fact that you have to
Yeah,
like kind of cap that point to keep going and open up the doors to further move the car in, that was a really good touch. I had never even considered how weird it is that all these city maps that we play on just happen to have like a railroad track in them. So working that into the lore of, oh, you're putting it on a transport truck to drive through the town, I hadn't even thought of that. That's just that was it. That's like an ingenious thing that you don't even catch that until you look for it. I think
yeah, like
that's a mark of good design, man.
yeah, you have to really look into to see like cities into TF2. They're so weird. That's why we don't have so much payload city maps. Uh, because of two things. The first one is the track going in the middle of the city, and the what is the name? Constructing the layout. Cities are very, flat. So the buildings are almost uniform. So if you see in Embargo, the buildings are always like the city part is not really on the gameplay aspect. Where we are playing, it's basically like around like probably the suburban area of the map. The main area is on the skybox and further away.
One of my favorite parts of getting any new maps, and I believe I told you this, is looking around and just exploring and finding all the like hidden details and stuff like that. So I can really appreciate that. Not only did you guys nail the city theme, I think the layout and design of the map itself, it's a believable location. Like I believe that the city could have the streets that are formed like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the way that it's like cut off, it makes you want to be like, oh, I wish I could explore the rest of the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally
It's good.
understand.
It's
Yeah,
well made.
when you see the skybox, it really has the feeling that, oh, I want to keep going. I want to go there.
Each point on the map, I feel, is just really smartly designed to the point where every point could probably be like its own mini map to like play and run around on. Was that like intentional, setting up all these like distinct separate areas, or did it just kind
It
of
was
happen that way?
it was intentional. We wanted every single checkpoint to feel unique and recognizable. This is a problem that I feel that it happens in TF2, where the player usually stay like very confused because the map looks the same in most of the parts. So making something unique for each point, recognize where you are on the location. So for new players, it's very like recognizable where you were going. So if you are on the factory side, you know that you are on the factory side. So you know how to get there by the city part. This is how like we designed the stuff. Making each point something unique and recognizable makes also very easy for the player to find himself on the map and where he should go, because the transitions of Embargo also shows you where you're going. So the casino entrance, it's from the city inside the building with the name casino, and in the factory side there is like a big factory. So these transitions are not very like natural. They are very like pointed out where to go.
When it comes to the actual casino part of the map, what's up with the little robot guys? How'd you come up with the little robots? And why can't we gamble with them? Everyone loves gambling.
The original idea of the casino was to have this giant machine of gambling. So this machine would basically like give you like crits and such, and we actually put that to testing with the gambling. And unfortunately, it didn't work out well because it would just straight up break the um, the balancing of the map. So I had to think something quick during the alpha construction of the map. So I started watching Despicable Me,
Yeah.
and I saw the minions, and I said, "Oh, that's an idea. I could make some kind of minions running around the map and such. Like they were just like." And I remember looking into RD Asteroids and said, "Well, the robots are like something good, but at the same time they're very confusing. What if we adapt those robots into the map? So, funny enough, one of our modelers made this bottler cosmetic in 2020, and I said, well, I'm gonna adapt that into the map.
I knew it. I knew those robots looked so familiar. That was the first thing I
Yeah,
said when I ran into them. I said like, "Oh my god, those are the little guys from Robot Destruction."
instead of them dropping Gibbs, we basically gave them what is the name?
Yeah, they drop health packs and
It's
ammo.
it's
That's a really
amazing.
smart way to repurpose it. And the fact that you can kill them too. I noticed a lot of players, the first thing they tried to do was see if they could kill him. And when they realized they did kill him, I noticed a lot of them felt bad.
The voice actors actually like said, "Oh, don't shoot the robots. They're expensive and such." It was funny to like make this interaction with the robots. The robots are my voice, by the way. So
Oh, that's you.
good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Thank you for doing business in Embargo Casino.
Oh,
It's just like
all
my
right.
voice basically like converted into.
I'll know the next time anyone around me blows them up. I'll know. I'll be thinking of you, buddy.
Yeah, man.
So you mentioned that originally you had the idea of like a machine that you could gamble with. I would assume that like if you gambled and won, you would get crits for your team or something like that. So you decided to
You would get
cut
crits
it.
for you, yeah. You would get crits and sometimes like resistance, or one time you would just get like a loose cannon bomb in you and basically like get thrown very far away.
Oh,
The problem was, besides the balancing, was the space. Embargo layout itself, it's based off OG layouts from TF2. So the layout is not very like wide open like current maps, and the layout was discussed to be playable for all classes. So if you're gonna play heavy on Embargo, you're gonna have fun, and if you're gonna play Spy, you're also gonna have fun. So it's not a map where it's just like extreme flanking, and also it's not all the high grounds from Embargo are accessible for every class. So there's no like high grounds for soldiers. So making that, you basically has to make less space to people to move around. This is why like some parts of Embargo feel so small constructing, and this is why the machine didn't work, because if you see the casino location is not that big. This is something that we did, like you have the sensation of the map is enormous, but actually it's a very like OG TF2 layout being defined over there with a lot of verticality.
I would also imagine that if you did end up implementing the gambling system, players would probably be too distracted. Like they wouldn't focus on the objective. They'd be too busy trying to get like a
Exactly.
good bonus or whatever.
Exactly. Or they would stay all the time gambling on
Right.
the
They
on
would
the
just,
machine.
just keep gambling and not even play the map.
We saw this happening with Galleria. Like players would stay up on the food courts role playing. I think the only role play thing we added was the bathtub, the jacuzzi.
I did notice the bathtub. That I found a lot of people hanging out in there.
So can you imagine if I like enable all the casino area, like for people would not like play at all. They would stay. I can make a version where people can play with the casino, but not official.
You are a proud Brazilian, my friend.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how do you feel about the actual map in the game called Brazil?
Okay.
Do you feel like that accurately represents your country?
Not at all. And let me tell you something. Most of the Brazilians are probably gonna agree with me. Brazil is a map that's not recognizable at all. Like if you show a picture to someone of the map, and you're gonna ask the person where's the location, the person's gonna say, I don't know, the jungle or something. And if we show a picture of Salvador to them, they're gonna know it is like South America, Brazil. And this is the biggest problem about Brazil, because some people here actually take as offense that map.
Really?
Yeah, the bananas on the location were just like very much for them. And putting a name of the map Brazil in a Puerto Rico location is actually Puerto Rico, that satellite that
Oh,
stays
really?
over there. It is. It's not even Brazil. So it's an offensive in a way. So I could explain in like for Americans, for example, imagine if someone puts a map with the name United States and build like something very like uncomfortable, like probably I don't know, like a gun shop, for example, or a McDonald's or something. Like the person goes, this is the same feeling.
Right.
People are having, like they see the bananas and the whole like generic buildings. They look into Brazil and say like, yeah, that's not my country. Like even Egypt have more representation to Egypt than Brazil has to the table. And this is another reason why Tropic Crisis was created. We made Tropic Crisis to tell people like, hey people, this is like South America. Like it's not only jungle. We have these tropical feelings with the map.
I'm glad you said that, because the next thing I was going to say is how strongly is this map's theming and the other maps from the Tropic Crisis. How strongly are those maps' themings tied to your heritage and your teammates' heritages?
We have like half of the team of Tropic Crisis are South Americans. So at least one South America worked on each map that was made for Tropic Crisis. So we knew how we would build our aesthetic into the game. So I can say very much the heritage about the construction of the art. In Salvador, you have like these beautiful colored buildings from Salvador and the giant elevator. That's actually a real location. In Embargo, it's the idea of like those colorful buildings and like the generic part of like supervillain bases, because Cuba is not like in U.S. territory. Cachoeira was like a more way to tell like, okay, if you don't like the color buildings, we have like these constructed colonial buildings in the jungle too. Like you can see some of these buildings in Cachoeira and how we adapted like the gameplay around it. In Patagonia, on the other hand, we want to tell another way of like, okay, so the buildings, the mining buildings operation are exactly like TF2, but they are more a bit saturated. You have these kind of like a beautiful sites of like mountains around the glaciers and such. So in Patagonia, it's like a Argentina guy who worked on. He's called Zelian. And in Salvador was a Midlo, a Brazilian guy too, with me. Favela, it was basically a Blade working and me doing the research and props for him. So Blade was the creator of Pier. Pier and Banana Bay are very popular here in Brazil. So it was like very good to convince him to work with us on the layout creation. And Overgrown, for incredible that looks, really fits the theme with colonial buildings around Colombia, Chile, and Amazonia. So, like, it doesn't represent 100%, but it is a good, accurate. So Crash made his research when he built the map.
It's nice to hear that you guys all like got together, saw what was in TF2, and realized you could do better.
Yeah.
You can and will do better, and you'll make things that are actually representative of your countries.
Yeah, we were impressed that Val picked the Tropic Crisis stuff, because when we originally built it, you can see like the entire Tropic Crisis was with the mentality of like just bringing the style. We made UV skins, we made like weapons, we made such things that would probably never be picked by Valve, but we needed to have this to be a good representation. So even if the maps wouldn't get in, we still would be satisfied with Tropic Crisis. Like we want to tell people like, okay, TF2 has the Japan style on it. How about Brazil?
I think people will agree that you and your team, you guys all did a great job.
Thank you so much. Thanks to the whole TF2 community too. Like we had a lot of support in Tropic Crisis.
Is there anything you want to say in your native language to any of your teammates or supporters?
About the entire Embargo team, I'm very grateful for the construction. E para todos os brasileiros, grande abraço e que a gente continue nesse grande caminho do Team Fortress 2. Okay, that was it.
Nice. One more Embargo question, sorry.
Okay.
What's like the development timeline for Embargo? Like, how long have you guys worked on that map?
So Embargo started in probably in September of last year, and I faced many problems with that map. Like that map was a challenge. So that map was like probably 5 months of just layout building and on complexity, and the rest of the other months was basically like art passing and like studying the stuff alongside Embargo. So besides working on the entire art pass Embargo, I'm also the major director of Tropic Crisis. So it was like directing a project and doing that massive map because I
Jeez.
work on the art of the map too. Like I had supporters in my side, like co-layout makers and like co-art passers, but most of like the adapting the art pass was me and layout was me with like 2 and 3 modelers and one artist like Laser Sofa, Zeus, and Reposa, basically like working full time on the on this like it was like something insane. Like we would spend like 4 a.m. in the morning still working on that map.
That's something.
Yeah.
Knowing that this was made in September of last year and it's July, it hasn't even been a whole year.
No.
That is a fucking crazy turnaround, man. For as polished as the final product is, that is nuts. That the development time was that short. And considering how crunched you guys were, I'm amazed it came out as good as it did.
If we had the option to extend, like yes, but we see that Embargo was very much finished on the aesthetic, because instead of just like working for 2-3 hours, I would spend with my team like probably 7 hours to 8 hours per day on Embargo, and sometimes we would even extend it during the night cycle to basically like discuss what we can do better for the map. We didn't do much public testings on some servers, like American servers, because this is a problem when we play sometimes in American servers, but the creators that are mostly Brazilians could not enjoy it. So we basically had to put in Europe servers and the Brazilian servers in public, but not in like TF2 maps, for example, that we wanted to play. So we had to put like, since I was building the layout, I needed to play to feel the layout. So we mostly spent with a public Brazilian server all the time running the map, and we would get like the casual players. Because for me, the consumer was like the consumer, like the people who plays the game was very important to understand how they wanted the map. This is how you make a successful map. It's not only taking feedback from other mappers, but also taking feedback from the people who plays the game, so you can understand how it works.
Understandable. I'm no stranger to playtesting maps myself, so I can imagine it was pretty stressful going from playtesting right back to developing to playtesting to right back to developing.
Oh yeah, Embargo first point was a nightmare to balance. I can tell you that. Like engineers are still like a big challenge in the first point, but in the alpha versions, like engineer was the strongest thing to do. Like you put like 3 sentries over there, it's like impossible to take off on that. So we had a lot of balancing and working with that.
Anyway, now it's time for the general questions. How long have you been playing TF2, and have you made any content for other Valve games?
Okay, so I have been working for but I have been playing TF2 since 2014, and most of my experience with TF2 was basically like a community service that would play like normal matches, and basically Turbine.
Gotta have Turbine.
The time, oh god, like in the time, computers were very like something only my parents would have. So can you imagine like those very weak laptops? It's me trying to run the maps. It wouldn't run it, so I had to keep playing Turbine like most of my time. And I did content, but only third-party content for Counter-Strike for some friends map, but never got into much. And I think other stuff outside Valve, probably like Minecraft or something, like some bots for Minecraft or like Minecraft like builders. I was builders of a community server here in Brazil too. But most of my history is built in TF2 itself.
It's nice to hear, man. I know exactly how you feel with playing on a little laptop because from 2013 to 2019, I played TF2 on my crappy laptop that could barely run the game until I went and got my own computer. So I know exactly your struggle because I also used to just play on Turbine all the time when I was younger. I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, Turbine was probably the only map would run it.
Stuff for Counter-Strike too, just like mods and stuff for your friends, but also Minecraft too. Quite a diverse repertoire you got, man.
When you start learning the stuff about environmental buildings and layout construction, you can apply it in any game so long as you keep playing the game. It's very hard to make a good layout if you don't know the game you're doing. And it's very hard to understand the art style too if you don't play the game you're playing.
In order to, make a map, especially for something like TF2, you got to really be familiar with how it plays. On the topic of making maps, is map making your passion? I know you've made a couple war paints and you've overseen some cosmetics, but is making maps what you really enjoy doing?
Mapping and probably directing also is my passion. I really like to gather people around and build stuff together. So it's probably why Embargo had so many like good good action into the map, because like basically putting those people around it to have a crunch deadline and actually follow up, it's not easy. It's not like you can basically do it in like just pointed out the tasks for the person, because each person you basically has to discuss and how you want it and how you need it, the stuff. So because sometimes the person can deliver, for example, props that's wrongly, or like textures that's not like pleasant, or the file is too like lack of optimization. Embargo was a nightmare to optimize, by the way.
Oh yeah, from what you've said so far, I completely believe that.
Yeah, kudos to Bilo who worked on the optimization for that map. Like, he spent hours on it. It was very, very tiring. And kudos to Valve too to implement the cosmetic of the butler. Let me tell you something, this is probably something, it's gonna be hard to see it again. That thing, it was very hard to implement. It needed like both sides, our team and Valve sides too. So Valve was really, I don't know how they were, because we didn't talk much, but to add a cosmetic like that, they probably really liked Embargo, and this is what melts my heart to see, like them like implementing something of Embargo in outside like the map.
I gotta say, I was a little hesitant to like enjoy the Bottler 2000 cosmetic. Not because I don't like it in general. I think it's fun having the little robot guy. I'm this is the stupidest thing to be worried about, but I'm worried that despite how technically difficult it was to implement, I'm worried that it'll just open the floodgates for all kinds of like following you buddy cosmetic. Like if in a year I have to deal with like seeing cats and dogs and birds and squirrels following the player around, like how the robot makes sense because like you can move in all 8 directions in TF2 and the robot will just, it's got the wheel, so it'll just turn around, go backwards with you. But like how would you make that work with like a 4-legged animal?
Yeah, it's very hard. So we had, I think, in the workshop a tank that we also experiment. So everything that has wheels work into these paths. They need to have wheels, but basically making legs and such, it's almost impossible without Valve actually like redoing the entire like jiggle bones and such of the character. Like it's not worth it for both sides. Like it's too much work for the cosmetic creator, and it's too much work for Valve on this. So this is why I'm saying like they always added these pet cosmetics, like the flying around with you, like the unicorn and such. But making a floor cosmetic is a way different story, and it's very hard to.
Yeah, because you also made that soccer ball for the scout.
Oh yeah, that one. that one doesn't look good. Like it is an interesting concept, but you can clearly see like on floor characters are need to be very specific, like a little car, a little hamster, probably ball on the thing, like that can be done. But making like a four-leg animal, it's almost impossible. So in the current state of the game. And I don't know if Valve would be open to this. Like, I think they were open because of Embargo itself. About the robot. We got the emails very early about this cosmetic compared to them.
So if it wasn't for Embargo, you probably wouldn't have gotten the robot.
Yeah, probably not. Because Valve would have to, like, they had to hard code. So it's kind of like a new cosmetic. Isn't for normal players, it's not a big deal. But for cosmetic creators, it's kind of big deal, like Valve going there and hard coding something to implement it to the game, like just for one cosmetic.
That would definitely be a lot of work.
Yeah.
On the topic of the Tropic Crisis update in general, when did you start putting together that? When did you start putting that together, and who's all involved with it?
I think the team started with 5 people, all Brazilians, and we started 2 months after Embargo into the discussion. And those 5 people were not working Embargo; they were working other maps. And one person said, "Oh, I want to do a favela map. I want to do I want to readapt your Salvador map. Oh, I want to do this Argentina map." So we decided to say, well, why don't we all do this together? Like we do a massive asset pack and such. So with time, with like the weeks passing, the team was basically like increasing to 20 to 40 to until we reach, I think, 90 people on the team. I think it's between 80 to 90 people. And each person there has a task. Nobody from those 80 people did nothing. Like each person that got inside our private Discord that got recruited did something. So assets for the maps, stuff for the website, coding for the entire part of the website, source field maker assets. So most of the people on the project was for the passion over there, like with the theming. It was like, I think we in 5 months of going to the project, we were already like very full of people. I think we spent 6 months working in a Tropic Crisis.
How many months?
6, entirely 6 months. 6 months. Embargo took 8 months, so Embargo started 2 months prior to Tropic Crisis.
Over 80 people? That is crazy.
I think 70 to 80 people on the inside the Discord. We had like people from war paints, people from asset creation, like hats, concept creators, like, and to organize all that, we did a more like inclusionist, what I call work, where we wouldn't be like close to people, like, oh, this person is not a very skillful person, so we are not selecting. No, we selected actually like people around the community of the very skillful and the very like new ones from the community. So we were very open into this, like including people.
Well, just knowing that all that talent came together to give us these great selection of maps, it's just kind of awe-inspiring that so many people came together to make something they were that passionate about. And I think it definitely shows in the quality of what we got. I've never seen this many people
in a project.
I've never seen that many people in a project, but I've also never seen so many people in the TF2 community itself all kind of rally around an update like this and just be so unanimous on how much they like these new maps.
The unfortunate in the fact that the TF2 community is very divisive around the pot. We have like the division, and this is like clearly. So when I build that, the good thing is I don't know how these divisions were set up. So I basically opened the form and said, you want to work in it? And there you go. The person didn't need to interact with the others. So most of the things were basically like talking with the directors and building the stuff around it, what we did. So I think we didn't even had like a proper organization on the general chat. On the Discord, we only had like parts of like talk with the directors. We basically like organize ourselves to build that with the mentality of like we want to make this as much as good as possible. Like it's not only about like getting the stuff done. Was mostly like how we gonna get it done with people that are not very experienced, and some people also inside that project didn't like other people, so
Oh
it
no.
was a challenge. Oh yes, there was some people always having fuss about with other people, so we had to basically discuss with them and say like, we're doing this with one purpose. Let do this project. It shows that if we have organization in this community, if Valve would trust the community again, we could make such great things for the future of the game.
I'm glad that you guys were able to avoid a similar situation that the you remember the invasion update and how that fell
Mm-hmm.
apart because everyone involved hated each other so much. And because of that, we never got any more community updates. I'm glad you were able to avoid that situation, and I hope Valve sees that when everyone comes together, they can make something truly special. So I really hope I hope we actually get community-made updates into the game again.
I hope so too. In Tropic Crisis, we made very open that Valve can pick anything if they want. Like, it's not something of the IP, so I don't own the items made for Tropic Crisis. So we made with the mentality of like Steel Workshop publishing items and such, because we know that we wanted to also to have some kind of safety of the person, because some people also want that item added into the game. Like I'm very happy the medic cosmetic get in. That one was built.
Where he's buff with the swimsuit on.
Yeah, yeah. It's not 100% perfect for people, and for me, it's actually like something like insanely good for me. But again, it's because of like having the Tropic Crisis group together that made these assets actually possible. And it's the same thing about Frontlines, it's the same thing about Mayan. Those stuff can still have stuff into the game added. You can still make stuff for Frontline and Valve added into it. So community updates kinda still happens, but they are very like Valve just picks the stuff and place it over there. Uh, one more thing to mention with this is that if we see Valve tends to go with the theming around Half-Life and spy movie into this case here. Like we got some case like cosmetics like the demo man one, but if you see we got the spy one, the heavy one, the bottler. So they kind of follow this like idea of spy movie, and we also got the map Atom Smash with the Half-Life combo with the medic. So Valve kind of went with a theme with the cosmetic case and the maps. They are picking now stuff, thinking about how they can introduce. So probably next year they're gonna bring a new theme. They're gonna select like probably a set of cosmetics. We don't know. I'm not confirming this. It's just propositions to them because it was very friendly spy tech cosmetics we got this year into the table, and Half-Life such stuff.
Understandable. It always kind of bothers me when they just kind of pick and choose things from community updates without like acknowledging where it came from.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean when you say that community updates still kind of happen, but in the future, I'd like for them to not just
main
take
one,
things
like,
from the updates
yeah.
and just like implement them fully.
Yeah, I also agree with that. We need very like community updates still happening in this, and I think the community nowadays has learned from the past of how to organize themselves, because Tropic Crisis was very much visible into the time. It was not easy, but everybody who built was with the mentality of like, we are not gonna fight, we're gonna build it. And I think with time, Valve is gonna give probably another chance to us, and I hope they give. So people need to keep doing these kind of stuff. I would love to see more like projects like Tropic Crisis into the table. Yeah, into the game.
I understand. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Out of all the maps that you personally have worked on, which one would you say you're the most proud of? And will you continue to make maps and items in the future?
Making maps, I'm always going to do, even if I have like other tasks to do, like jobs and such. Um, the proudest map that I have, for incredible that looks, I think is Embargo. No, it's not incredible. It's obvious. It's Embargo, probably one of my proudest map. But each map for me gives me like a sensation and part of me being played. Valor, I'm very proud of the results and still wanna work a bit more on that. Salvador, I'm very proud of it. Favelas, I'm very proud of it. Patagonia, I help on models too, so I consider very proud of that map, especially by the creators. But my main map says Embargo and Valor, and Salvador with my buddy Midlo, it's probably the biggest prouds I have adapting to the game, and I hope for this year I can bring even more experience like Embargo to the player base.
Well, man, here's hoping.
We do hope.
Yeah, I know if you and your team are working on something, it's bound to be a banger.
We see this winter. I'm not gonna be doing stuff for Halloween though, unfortunately.
Oh, so we'll see you on for winter then.
Yeah, we're gonna see together in winter. See you guys next winter.
Awesome. I'll be looking forward to that, man.
We're gonna start playtesting probably next month or even like 2 months from now. We have to. Yeah, Embargo ended. We are still working in some parts to fix some bugs, but we have to move into our next masterpiece.
That's a great way of thinking, man. And on the topic of working and fixing bugs and stuff, I know I mentioned that door in finals in the final point where both red and blue can walk through, and how like easy it is to defend. Let me ask, how do you take feedback like that from fans, and how does it influence your decision making?
People think when I don't respond the Steam Workshop, it's I'm just ignoring. Actually, no, because the last patch from Embargo was actually like people complaining about, like for example, the sounds of the casino being too much and such. So I'm very sorry if I don't respond to the workshop. It's just I don't have time to keep responding every comment. But we know about the problem of the last point. That the last point, like all the last points for maps are punk. It's impossible. But Embargo, we are doing fixes probably in the next days with Soch. We're gonna do first patch fixings to see if we can improve the last point in a way without interfering with the layout. And if we see that the layout is like still very problematic in the current factor, we're gonna have to add some flanks and probably even rework a bit the last point. So even if the map is in the game, doesn't mean we're gonna just stop working and move on. We're still gonna take care of the stuff we promised to deliver into the game to be like quality for players to enjoy the map.
I'm glad that you and your guys are still actively working to try to improve it, even after
Release.
knowing even after knowing that you guys did such a good job. I'm glad that you guys are still actively seeking ways to how to improve it.
Yeah.
And getting feedback, because I know you said you didn't do a lot of public playtesting.
Yep.
Here in the
United States. Yeah, we did more Europe and Brazil.
I'm sure that now that the map is public for literally everybody, you're getting all kinds of reactions that you hadn't.
Yep.
That you either hadn't thought of, or maybe you did think of this. I'm sure getting all this feedback at once has been pretty overwhelming. So
Embargo has been.
I don't doubt that you guys are trying to work on it.
Embargo has been 50-50 in my thoughts. Like, it was very positive in good ways. And also the bugs kinda like give it a bit of problem, so it was negative, unfortunate, but doesn't mean that we're just gonna sit and like watch the problems become something in the future. So I hope I can still like touch the map and still be working like in good health for the people to enjoy it.
With that in mind, I have my last question here that I have written down. How are you and your team reacting to the pretty much overwhelming, unanimous support and love for this map? Is this what you guys had hoped for when you got in, when you learned it was getting into the game? Like, did you guys think it would get this level of reaction, or did you think people would just kind of like it and move on?
The first thing surprise was actually getting to the game. So I was in the subway, and when I got the email, I was like in shock. I spent like 2 minutes in shock getting that news. I think some tears come out of my eye because like I couldn't like believe it in my that happened. And we knew it was going to be very positive because we had the Tropic Crisis servers playing the map. So when we had when I say the public testings, it's like we didn't have public testings on the alpha version, like for United States. But Embargo actually spent, I think, 1 entire month playing, so we could improve all the problems in that part. And when we put the testings, we also made a graph to see which maps was mostly Embargo, like mostly played. Embargo was in first place, Favela was in second place, and the others ones depending on the region. So like Russia had more Salvador, United States had more Overgrown. So we knew from that Embargo was the most played map from the payload selections that we had. Like a lot of people like it. So we were expecting this positive reaction to the public. I wasn't expecting a lot of good people, like big people talking about it. I was just gonna expect like people talking, oh, it's a cool map, not like it's an amazing, incredible map. I was in shock when I saw some tweets and stuff. I'm very happy.
You were shocked when you saw some tweets? Any big names that you saw talking about your map?
Oh yeah, Uncle Dane talking about my map was in shock. I stay in shock.
Wow, really?
Yeah, he found the map incredible. He loved the map. I think he gave me A tier for like in his map pool selection. He doesn't like much frontier style maps, as we speak, but he really found it something unique in Embargo. And even if we didn't get a major update this year, I hope Embargo satisfied some people to play around the map.
Well, I think the answer to that is pretty obvious.
Oh, see the people reacting to the helicopter is the most funniest thing in the world.
Of course, everyone would try to kill themselves the
Yeah.
second they see it.
People go jump in the helix, or people would just like go get stomped by the helicopter.
Was it originally going to do that, or did you guys add that in later to be funny?
No, it was originally supposed to do that. Like, we want the helicopter to be like the cutscene, initial cutscene of the map. This is something that I wanted to have, like the payload showcasing, like you're gonna have to push that payload now. It's not some kind of like, oh, the payload is there, push it. You know? It's like an intro scene.
Giving it such a dramatic opening certainly laid the feeling that the map was going to have. I'd say it got people pretty pumped up.
And I'm very happy with the results. The ending cutscene of Embargo is one of my favorites.
I saw you posted that GIF on Twitter of
Oh yeah,
with the gel exploding, and it said the ending to PL Embargo or something like that. That was pretty fun.
Someone made that meme. I love it. I just love it. Like originally we were gonna hire a voice actor to do like each voice a unique voice line of the mercenaries. Like, oh, my eyes, and something like this. But Embargo file is too big. Like, we cannot add everything to the map.
That makes sense. That's ambitious, but it makes sense.
It is the biggest file map of the TF2 right now. It doesn't, like, we have Snowplow was the biggest. It's a bit bigger than Snowplow, the current one. What it makes bigger in these map files are the music. Music is something that takes a lot of space from it. So we want to make the music actually like worth it, to inform the player the round is ending and such.
It paid off, I'd say.
Thanks God.
The first time I played Embargo, when it switched and I was on red team and we spawned in and I heard like the jazz in the spawn, and then the casino has this like
music playing,
not like elevator music, but this like nice cheery sound. I was like, oh my god, it's not just one track, it's multiple tracks. That's really cool. The serious amount of attention to detail is what I think really pushes this map to the top. Like, there's a reason this is the big standout winner.
We had wonderful selections for the summer update. You can clearly see that Valve actually saw into the maps they selected. So I wouldn't say I'm the only winner for this, but I'm very proud of the community and this year's update.
Well, with that all being said, I am totally out of questions here. Got any last words that you want to say? Anything you want to shill? Have people head on over to?
I would basically say the people who's watching this, please go enjoy the summer updates, and when you can, give it a chance to enjoy Embargo. Hugs to everybody, even if you don't like Embargo. I still love you, and I hope you can start growing a bit of Embargo in yourself. And we hope from the future that we see more maps like very creative and such from other communities. That's probably it.
I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to Hoppkins, of course, for letting me bother him for over an hour. And thank you to everyone that's just playing the game, enjoying the update, and leaving your feedback. Because, if it wasn't for players like you, we wouldn't be getting these holiday-sized updates. And we wouldn't have so many amazing people working on them and sharing their passion with the game. And really, I think that's what the TF2 community is really all about.
Abraço a todos e beijo. Obrigado por assistirem.
Couldn't have said it better myself, buddy.